This is the journey to One Africa.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Swahili Nation, One Africa. This is the urgent call. Most of you know that I haven't been showing up a lot recently. And the fact that I'm showing up right now, it has to tell you that this is very, very urgent. 6 years ago, we've started to advocating for the One Africa, the Africa we want, and the unity of our people. But that was not the beginning of this movement. 60 years ago, when Africa was gaining independence, our forefathers started with that movement. And 60 years later, we are still advocating for the same thing. I believe all Africans in the continent, and even outside of the continent, African descendants who have never been in the continent, should also advocate for the unity of the continent, because that is what exactly we need right now. And this is the time for that. All right, let me just give you a little example. You have seen the movements and the events that have been happening in the continent. Specifically, you can talk about west side of Africa. You know, when you talk about the President Ibrahim Traore today, not only Burkina Faso people are supporting him, not only Africans in the continent are supporting him, but the African descendants outside of the continent are supporting him. This has to tell you that African people reach to a point where we are forgetting about our nationalities. We are putting aside our nationalities and we are looking, we are searching, we are seeking for the great leaders of Africa. And we support them no matter who they are, no matter where they're coming from, no matter which religion background they're coming from, no matter how they look like. But all of us collectively, you will see African continent and African people are actually coming together to support. It reminds me of the ex-president of Tanzania, John Pombe Magufuli. The entire continent of Africa and African descendants actually came together to support the move of John Pombe Magufuli. A lot of people, they did not understand Swahili because he was always in Swahili, but they got the news of what was happening in Tanzania, and all Africans came together to support. I remember the president of Kenya, when he came to a regime, all Africans, regardless of their countries, regardless of their cultures, regardless of their religious background, regardless of who they are, they actually came together to support President Ruto. I can talk about Julius Malema. He's not a president, but he's the leader of EFF in, South Africa. You see, all Africans in the continent and outside of the continent are actually coming together to support him. No matter what, you can talk about PLO Lumumba, my African daddy. Everybody is behind him, supporting. I can say majority of Africans are supporting what he says, are supporting what he's advocating for. You can talk about Dr. Erikana. All Africans in the continent, outside of the continent. What does this tells us? I can go on and on. But what does this tell us? I can even talk about Swahili Nation here. We started to advocate for One Africa, One Passport 6 years ago. And guess what? You guys are here watching me right now. And we are almost approaching 500,000 subscribers because of the vision of One Africa, One Passport. Because of the vision of One Africa, want to see right now, people are coming together and want to see it happen. What does this tell you? When I read the book of Genesis, Chapter 1, verse 14, this is what it says. Genesis 1:13, the Bible says, Then God said, let there be light bearers, like sun, moon, and stars. Those are the things that are bearing lights, all right? In the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be useful for signs, tokens of God's provident care, and for making seasons, days, and years. So, in verse 14, God is basically creating these light bearers, sun, moon, and stars, and He's creating these lights, different kind of lights. And what does he say? Why he did that? So all these lights we see, sun, moon, and stars, they're actually showing us the sign of the season, days, and what? And month. That means when you see a little bit like the sunset is happening, you know that the night is coming. When you see that there's a rising of the sun, you know that the morning is coming. You know, this is the new day. This is the horizon. All right. When you see the rain, you see this is another season. When you see the heavy sun, heavy heart, you know that the rain is about to come. So all this light that God created, there were the sign showing that something is about to come. Season, years, and days. What does tell you? What tell you? What do you think? Everything that is happening right now, you see the movement of Africans people coming together, regardless of their country. There was a time where we care so much about our countries. But the season for these couple years that I've been advocating for One Africa, One Passport, you see the arising of young generation African being aware of who they are and being passionate about their continent, not only their country, and advocating for the unity of the continent, for the continent to come together. This has to tell you, this sign is showing us that the continent is ready and the people are ready to embracing the unity of Africa that needs to happen. This has to tell the organizations, bodies like African Union that this is actually the time. 2025, it is the time to actually allow One Africa, One Passport to happening right now. This is actually the time African Union Passport to come for our people because the people are ready. People are willing to give everything they got just to protect the dignity of this continent. That's why you see Africa, a lot of African descendants moved to Burkina Faso to protect Ibrahim Traore. A lot of Africans here in the continent are moving there to protect Ibrahim Traore. Africans there in Burkina Faso are sleeping outside of the state house just to protect the president. And not only Burkina Faso, once again. And, you know, Ibrahim Traore is using French to advertise. I mean, to speak, to speech, to do all these kind of things. But the continent is hungry for the unity of this continent. People are hungry for the continent to be united. So that's why we came up with this plan. That this is the moment to actually make One Africa happen because people are ready. It's no longer about the leaders, like when our leaders are going to be ready. No, the people have spoken. And when you talk about, you guys, you talk a lot about democracy in the continent. Democracy is power to the people. People want One Africa to happen. It should happen. People want One Passport to happen. It should happen. Why are we delaying this thing? Why are we keeping entertaining these borders? Why are we keeping entertaining this restriction and keeping our people away from one another? It has to come to an end because the sign, the evidence shows that the people are ready to embrace one another and to stand for the betterment of the continent. Today, if something is going on in Congo, something bad, not only Congolese people will be speaking about it, but the entire continent of Africa will be talking about it. Why? Because the unity is here. Guys, unity is here. It is the moment for us to officialize it, but the unity is already in the continent. I am proud and I'm glad because the history is not going to leave me behind. The history is not going to leave you behind because you're part of this movement and you want to see it happen. The unity is already here, guys. The unity is already here. Nobody no more cares about the countries. Nobody no more cares about the nationalities. Nobody cares about, you know, this is your country, this is my country. Nobody cares about that. People are caring about we Africans because we are sharing the same struggles. We have the same struggles and we are tired of injustice that is happening in this continent. So African Union, it is the time to be in the right side of the history. You need to pick up your side. You need to be in the right side of your history. Because we are making history today and the next generation will remember you as someone who jeopardizing the unity of this continent. The leaders who were staying in African Union headquarters, you guys, you need to make decision because this is no more about to plan to see what is going to happen. We have planned too much and we've just stopped in planning. Now it's the time to implementing those plans we planned. There's no way to wait until 2063. We don't have the luxury of time to wait until then. This is the moment to do right now. So I'm just going to read out these statements that we wrote a couple years back to advocating for One Africa right now. And by the way, guys, we wrote a petition that says One Africa right now. Please head over to this video description. You will see the sign, the petition. You'll see in all of our videos, go and sign it right now. We need a lot of signatures to pressure these organizations to make sure that One Africa is happening right now. And when I'm talking about One Africa, I'm talking about these things that I'm going to mention right now, and you are included. We, the African citizens and One Africa advocates, call to the attention all African heads of states, the African Union and Pan-African Parliament on the following problems and solutions. Summarized in the following. The first thing, removal of visa restrictions for all Africans in the continent to immediately facilitate the free movement of Africans within the continent in respect of the protocol to the Abuja Treaty 1991. Number two, prioritizing one Africa passport and availing it to all African citizens and her descendants in the diaspora, the latter of whom were forcibly enslaved by colonizers during 16th to 19th century triangular trade as a gesture of apologizing for what was done to them, welcoming them back to the motherland and benefiting from their professional expertise and advanced skills, but also to bring back our family to the continent. Third, champion the open border policy through opening markets and accelerating intra-regional trade opportunities to curb the high unemployment rate among the youth in Africa and their unwarranted risk journeys and inhuman death through the Mediterranean seas. Number fifth, Africans can never be illegal immigrants in their own continent. They are not immigrants. They are African. Expose foreign exploitation of Africa's minerals, resources, while encouraging skilled Africans in the diaspora to participate in finance mobilizing using Africa's minerals and natural resources available within and from the continent. So what exactly Ibrahim Traoré is doing. And we saw this even before Ibrahim Traoré became a president. African Union, AU, to withdraw from receiving partners' funds to sustain its budget and instead exercise its independence by focusing on streamlining revenue collecting from member states and African citizens within the continent and diaspora. And for these guys, we did the research. We asked majority of people, more than 95%, they said they're willing even to contribute monthly or even yearly to the African Union in order for us to have our own budget from our own money. Whoever feeds you controls you. We cannot bring one Africa and one Africa passport if we're still receiving loads and aid from European Union, from Americans, from Chinese. They don't want us to be one. But we need to feed ourselves so that we may control our destiny. If we don't feed ourselves, they'll keep controlling us and we have no power. Because whoever holds the money has the power. Immediate implementation of one African currency, a step towards African solutions to African problem with African money. One currency. Right now, if I want to move to another African country, I need to change my currency to dollar. And then when I get there, I change the local currency as well. So what happens? We boost dollar value and we keep on decreasing our own values of money. Well, we need to take a step towards implementing the one currency for African continent and to use that as a medium of exchange. If we have more than 1.3 billion people in the continent. Imagine if we have one currency, how much value that currency will be. Today, that currency will be competing with dollars, with euros, and other currencies that are out there. It will be one of the strong and powerful currencies you've never seen. And everybody who is coming to the continent to do trade, whatever, because they're coming, the Chinese, Americans, all of them, they're coming here. They'll be using African currency as a medium of exchange. Imagine how much economy is going to be boosted up here in the continent. Imagine. These are just simple theories. They don't need genius people to think about, but we're not implementing them. We keep staying here and we're still, prioritizing dollars in our own country and it does nothing. All right. Aim. This is the aim. But also immediate implementation of one army. Immediate implementation of one office, like empowering African Union states so that all these leaders in our countries, they will be having somewhere, they will have a place to report. They'll have a place to be held accountable. Today, they do whatever the heck they do and nobody's holding them accountable because leaders, presidents in the continent, they're like gods. But we need to hold them accountable by this body of African Union. We can implement one army to protect our territories. We can implement one currency, all right, to increase and to boost up our economy in the continent. We can implement one Africa passport in order to to allow the free traverse of our people from one country to another country, and also not to be neglected by other countries. Today, Donald Trump, he restricts so many African countries from going to United States. But what happens? Other countries are allowed and other countries are not allowed. What does it tell you? It shows you that you are below him. He is better than you. That's what they're doing. They're only doing that to divide us, to conquer us, to keep ruling us. It should not be even a big of a deal. You're not allowed to go to United States. Like your country's been received. It should not be a big deal. But you know what? If we have one passport in the continent, if you stop one country, you stop the entire continent. And you need Africa. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Well, you're going to allow it anyways. It's just easy. We can't keep like shouting that, hey, you're stopping AIDS. Oh, you're stopping us from entering your country. This has nothing to do with nothing. We have to build our country to make them come to us and not us going to them all the time begging them. We have everything it takes, and yet we're going to beg to them. Aim. Thus, we African citizens and One Africa advocates reinforcing the aspirations for the Africa we want, standing in solidarity with the acceleration of AfCFTA implementation and respecting the sovereignty of each of the African nations, urge the head of the states and the African Union and the Pan-African Parliament to urgently set up an immigrant veto system at each boundary crossing point of all respective countries in preparation for immediately open borders policy across Africa. Second, to collapse the African borders and allow every African holding one Africa passport to traverse freely across the continent as one person without visa requirement. Third, to expose illegitimate militarism in Africa and the role of armed conflicts, some facilitated by foreign powers, have played and contributed to the climate adversities on the continent, therefore inhibiting deliberately or otherwise economic development in the continent. Fourth, to expose institutions, individuals, or enemies of Africa, funding terrorism and transnational organized crime that are destabilizing Africa. Guys, these are the aim and why we're advocating for the One Africa, One Passport. With the citizen of One Africa, convinced that Africa, her descendants within the continent and in the diaspora inclusively of her natural minerals and human resources, is capable of being equal global partner with other continents, and that the time to unite is long overdue. Building on the aspiration of Africans for the Africa we want, embodied on a strong, united, and influential global player and partner. Recognizing the urgent need to demonstrate willingness to fast-track the Abuja Treaty 1991 by looking inward to mobilize African resources that will finance and accelerate our industrial development. Critical of the presence of foreign ministry bases of our motherland and the threat to our security these bases pose to our continent and our people. In protecting our beautiful motherland, Africa, and declaring our continent is not a battleground for proxy wars between French troops, USA, NATO, Russia, and China, and all other foreign military bases that are on the continent, should be removed as soon as possible. Further, recognizing the pivotal role of African continent free trade area plays in empowering and uplifting African women and youth, the backbones of society, towards economic unified to accelerate the integration of Africa's markets, to provide massive employment boosts, regional trade, and economic prosperity among our youthful population. Guys, if today I was running for president of Africa, this will be my plan. This will be something that I want to establish. This will be something that I want to happen, to see happening in the continent. You know, leadership is all about leading. Leadership is not about the title. Leadership is not about the fancy cars and the fancy protocols. Leadership is not about none of those things. Leadership is simply mean leading. Leading to where? You must have a vision. You must know where your continent, your people wants to go. You must know from them and lead them towards that direction. It's as simple as that, because you're not using your own money, but you must have a vision for the continent. And you must listen to the people what they want and just do what they want. You cannot call yourself that you are African Union, the organization of the people, and you're doing nothing for the people, but you're just implementing the policies and whatever from other people, from whatever your bosses, whoever you reply to. That's why today you see Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they joined together as a one nation, and they withdrew themselves from ECOWAS. Do you want to see more countries withdrawing themselves from African Union? Well, the hearts of the people are not in African Union. Right now, it's just a political organization, but people's heart, they're far away from African Union. Well, the time is now to change that. And how are we changing that? By bringing one Africa, one passport right now. That is what we need more than anything else. I am just tired of how Africans are being mistreated and being undervalued wherever they go because of their passports. Now it is the time to bring one passport in the continent for the people to traverse freely in their own continent and outside of the world as well. So guys, there's a petition. Please sign up, because the time is now. And I'm telling you, one day you'll be so proud that you've been a supporter of Swahili Nation and One Africa movement, because this journey has just begun and nobody's going to stop it, because it's gas time. It is the season. It is the time. It is the day, and everything pointing us to the right direction, that the time is now. We cannot delay no longer. Appreciate it, guys.